Speaking of the Jets, we last saw Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud in New York, New Jersey. 10 days ago, suffered a concussion. Jets win, Texans lose. Shereen Williams spotted a video from the Texans-Broncos game the prior week, before the Jets game. And I hadn't seen this before because it just gets lost in the crush of 1 o'clock Eastern games on a Sunday. And C.J. Stroud finished the game. He missed 2 plays. We have a link in the story at PFT to the video, and Sims and I talked about it earlier today. He should have been pulled from that game. And I don't care what the league is going to say about it. I actually considered requesting comment before I wrote about it. I didn't for a couple of reasons. First of all, I didn't want to wait to not get an answer and then have to ask again and then wait to not get an answer and ask again, because that's how it goes when there's a question posed by me that is along the lines of something they'd rather not answer. And I think I just screwed up my microphone, and hopefully I'll get it fixed here. Let me make sure I am on the right microphone before I keep going. Come on, microphone. Cooperate with me. Cooperate with me, you damn microphone. Let's see if it's working now. Well, this really stinks. Let me try it one more time here. Uh-oh. And I think we're back on the better microphone. Doesn't matter either way. Anyway, I was making a point and I can't remember what it was. Oh, if you watch that video. Oh, and I was saying that the NFL, I thought about requesting comment. I don't need them to try to word salad / gaslight me into thinking that C.J. Stroud wasn't demonstrating ataxia. Macy is chiming in. I don't know if you heard that. But I am not going to ignore what I see with my own eyes. That's why I say go watch the video. Gross motor instability used to be the term that they used. That was the Tua Tagovailoa back injury that they gaslight / word salad us into thinking wasn't a back injury. This C.J. Stroud thing, first of all, he's out. And his teammates drag him to his feet. And then he's wobbling. And the official tells him, go to the sideline for an evaluation. And he like messes like it's my rib or it's somewhere in here. The official wouldn't hear any of it. And then as C.J. Stroud is walking away and still talking to the official, you can see he's still wobbly. How is that not ataxia? Now, if the NFL wants to put out a statement, and if they want to say it's not ataxia, and who is anyone other than our experts to determine what is ataxia? Well, what the hell else are they supposed to look at other than a guy who was wobbly? A guy who looked like he was out flat on his back. They pulled him up, and he was wobbly. And now the Texans would go on to win that game over the Broncos, and it was mid-fourth quarter. See, that's the problem the NFL faces. They want to be able to say to the world, we care about player brains. We care about health and safety. We care about developing and implementing a proper protocol to ensure the highest level of caution and care for our players who may or may not have suffered concussions. But when the rubber meets the road during a game, the prospect of removing a player from the action and having him gone for 5, 10, 15 minutes of real time in that Eagles-Cowboys game. Remember, Jalen Hurts first went to the blue tent, then went into the locker room for a concussion evaluation before he returned to the game. And he was fine. If you don't have your best quarterback, ultimately because the guy didn't have a concussion, just because the guy, showed some signs that required a full evaluation, I don't think the NFL wants to do that. And none of the people who have access to the button that shuts everything down and requires a concussion evaluation want to be the one to do it. What if you're the one that pulls a guy out, that takes him out of a game in crunch time? It's another way that people could be suspicious about the fix being in. Yeah, what a convenient time for a concussion evaluation. Oh, he was fine. Oh, he was fine? You took him out for 15 minutes of real time. He missed 2 drives, and he was perfectly fine. It's a tough balance. Now, in Stroud's case, if that was ataxia, and if that was ataxia, it wasn't ataxia, I don't know what is ataxia. But if that's ataxia, it's not even a matter of a concussion evaluation. He's shut down. See, and this is the same idea. The same folks who decide whether or not to hit the button for a concussion evaluation are the same folks who decide to hit the button for a finding of ataxia, and we got to take him out of the game. And nobody wants to be the one to do it. Nobody wants to carry that potential blame for being a little too chicken little-ish, a little too rash, a little too cautious. And it tells me that the NFL's strategy here, whether they've ever developed it and articulated it or not, we'd rather be wrong, letting a guy with a concussion play, than have a bunch of guys who don't have concussions under a standard where we're way too sensitive, pulling guys out of games for evaluations or pulling guys out because we think they have ataxia and not letting them return to the games. We don't want that. We'll take the risk of a guy having a concussion and maybe having another concussion and everything that could go along with that. And the other point here, too, is you have to protect the players from themselves and understand that the players are going to try to keep playing. The new device, and this may have been what C.J. Stroud was trying to do against the Broncos, you lay there and collect yourself before you have to even try to show that you don't have ataxia. T.J. Watt, did that. Trevor Lawrence did that on Sunday night in the third quarter when he hit his head against the turf violently, Tua Tagovailoa style. Players want to play. And that now becomes a viable way to avoid anyone saying, sorry, you're shut down. We think you have ataxia. When T.J. Watt explained the process that resulted in him returning to the game a couple of weeks ago against the Patriots with the tinted visor and no big deal, knee to the face, no big deal. He's fine. Check his jaw. He's fine. Check his eyes. He's fine. Give him a tinted visor. He's fine. Next day, oh, he's got a concussion. Watt himself said, we handled everything the right way. It's not about we. You're not part of we. You're a patient who does whatever the doctors tell you to do. This isn't an effort. See, this is what they said last year about Tua. This is what the union said. We need to treat these individuals as patients. This isn't a checklist to get a guy back on the field. Treat him like patients. There's no we involved. We implies it was all a team effort to allow T.J. Watt to keep playing. That we're beating the system. We're defying the man. We're doing what we want to do. We're reaching whatever findings we have to reach to allow us to do whatever we want to do. It's not the way it should be. And Chris and I were talking about this earlier today, but I think it's an important point. The NFL's got to pick a lane here. Either the NFL is going to pretend that it's going to be Big Brother for these players and tell them when to leave the games no matter what, or, you know what? As long as the player wants to play, let them play. As long as they're able to answer the basic questions. How many fingers? What day is it? Where are you? What's your name? What's the score? As long as they can satisfy a very baseline threshold understanding, let them keep playing if they want to play. They know the risks by now. They know. And they're wired to play. But see, the problem is when a player's had a concussion, his brain's impaired. That impaired brain is going to cause him to do things he wouldn't otherwise do. And they're wired to keep playing. That's your default. There's a certain amount of denial. You don't want to think you have a concussion. So if I'm able to keep playing, I must not have a concussion, even if I have a concussion. They just need to button this up. Because right now it feels broken. And the Stroud situation, Trevor Lawrence, T.J. Watt, I mean, we've had 3 of these now in 2 weeks. They look fishy, and the league needs to get it under control. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.